everyone, this is Christine from the Door Doctor, and today I have a really pretty, really sparkly flower wreath for you. It's going to be a poinsettia or poinsettia, I'm not sure how you say it, flower wreath that I think you'll like. You could use it for the holidays, but I think it would really look pretty all year long because it has a nice bit of sparkle to it. Okay, so part one will be supplies, part two will be making your petal and assembling your wreath. Part three will be the flower center, and then part four is just finishing the wreath. So for supplies, I'm going to be using this 8-inch in diameter wire wreath frame. This is one of my favorite Dollar Tree finds. You'll see that I've already attached what's called number 5 plastic mesh to the center of the wire wreath frame, and that's so that I can apply petals all the way in. You can find the number 5 plastic mesh in sheets at places like Hobby Lobby. That's where I get mine. And I've attached a little circle of it to the center just using some zip ties, okay? In terms of the mesh, this is the star of the show. So we're gonna be using white poly burlap mesh. This is a 10-inch roll. You'll be using about 1/2 of a roll for this flower. And you'll be alternating it with this really pretty, sparkly poly deco mesh that I found on craftoutlet.com. You can see it's a window pane mesh, so it has sort of larger squares that are made up of, vertically these little white pieces of, it's almost like plastic poly alternating horizontally with this nice sparkly gold. I think that'll look really, really pretty. And then I'll probably add some leaves, and to do so, I'll use poly burlap in a lime green, just probably about 5 or 6 10 by 10 inch squares to make your leaves. I attach everything and all of my wreaths using my trusty 8-inch white plastic zip ties that you can get on Amazon. And then you'll want to have handy a pipe cleaner for a little hanging loop on the back, and I usually cut or pre-cut a little circle that fits the size of my wire wreath frame so that I can finish the back at the end. For the flower center, I think what I'm going to use today is just plain old plastic gold Christmas ornaments that you can find at Dollar Tree as well. I usually get long sleeves of these. They have about 12 in a roll, or 12 to 15, and these are about 1.5 inches in diameter, and so I'm going to use a cluster of 6 of these for my flower center. Okay, so I'm just going to clear off my workspace, and then we'll come back, and I've already pre-cut all of my mesh, as you can see here. We'll start assembling our wreath in part 2. Be right back. All right, so welcome back. So this is going to be part 2, putting together your petals on your wire wreath frame. I'm going to end up with 4 rows of petals. The first 3 rows will be 10 petals each row, and then the final row in the center will be 6 petals. At least that's what I'm planning. We'll see if it pans out that way. So the outer row is going to be all white. Then the second row is going to be the gold. The third row is going to be more white. And then we're going to finish with this gold in the center of the flower wreath. For the first row of petals, you're going to be using this second wire along here, not the outermost one, but the second one. And we're going to be placing 10 petals total, so that'll be 4, 4, and then 3, evenly spaced. And this petal I use for a lot of my poinsettia wreaths, and it's pretty simple to do. It's all based on a 10 by 10 inch square that you're going to fold first into a triangle and then gather. And I'll show you that now. So you're going to take your 10 by 10 inch square. I usually place it in a diamond configuration, point near my stomach, the other point going away from me. And I take the point that's closest to me, bring it up to the other point opposite, make a nice, as evenly as you can, triangle. And then I'm going to gather from the base of the triangle to the point. So from the folded long end to the point. just like that. Almost looks like a little mustache to me when I do that. And then before placing it on your frame, you're going to pinch it, pinch your mustache in the middle like that. It almost reminds me of a fishtail or a mermaid tail, something like that. And then you're going to place that with a zip tie on that second wire frame. And that's how she looks. Pretty easy. And so that's going to be the basis of all of the petals on this flower. So once you get the hang of that, the rest will be a cinch. So I'll do a couple more here. So again, point facing the midsection, meet the other point, flatten out your triangle, gather it in the middle from the base to that point. Kind of bring in the two ends, pinch it again in the middle, make your little mermaid tail, and then attach it to your frame. But if my eyes would work with my zip tie. And they're all going to overlap. They're all going to overlap slightly. Certainly you can make them as close together as you'd like. I think 10 seemed to be the magic number when I've used this size frame before. So let's do another one. So make your triangle, gather from the base to the point, and then bring the two sides together and pinch in the middle. There we go. So I'm going to do 4 in this section. So make your triangle and then gather from base to point. Oh, forgot my zip tie. And there you go, just like that, 4 petals done. So I'm going to continue around and then we'll meet back in time to do the second row with the gold. All right, welcome back. So row 1 has been completed, and I'll just hold that up for you. So again, this is 10 petals. Each one slightly overlaps the petal next to it, and it gives you this nice sort of starburst pattern around here. And so now we're going to move on to row 2, which will be the same exact petal, but just using the gold poly mesh that I was mentioning earlier. And for the second row, we're going to place our petals in between the tips of these first white petals and start just on the inside of the mesh circle that you placed there. So let me just place a zip tie here first so you can get a sense of that. So it's going to be right, whoopsie, right up against this little inner black frame or wire piece, just where the mesh starts and in between these 2 petals. I really like this gold. I hope it has the durability of other poly burlap meshes because it's so pretty. So again, I'm going to make my triangle just like before and gather it from the base to the tip. You can hear it when you kind of crinkle it. Oh, that'll be pretty. Just stick that right in between. And by placing them this way, you'll see that the tail of one part of the petal, you know, doesn't perfectly overlay the last row. So I'll place another one here. So this will be 10 petals in total. Make our triangle here. And I should say that when I cut this, I did cut this with my wood burner. I didn't show that step, but I cut all my poly burlap with a wood burner with a chiseled tip. Not sure how well that projects on the screen there, but this gold mesh cut very well with that wood burner. Sometimes I feel like I just melt too much of the mesh with the wood burner, but for this particular gold mesh, it seemed to work well without too much fuss, which is always nice because I think the wood burner is, you know, fast. It gives a little bit more durability because it melts all the edges of your mesh, kind of seals them. All right, so here's number 3. So make a nice triangle there and gather from base to tip. Here we go. I do like a sparkly wreath, so I can imagine that this might be nice at Christmas time, but I think if you just like sparkle, I mean, I think it'll look nice year round. And it has this nice, you know, yellow gold color to it. This caught my eye as something different. All right, so we'll do one more here, and then I'll probably finish the row separately and come back and do row 3, at least show you the placement of the 3rd row of petals. There we go, just shape that up a little bit. All right, so I'll take a break. That's the first 4. I'm going to place the other 6 in between those little spaces there, and then we'll come back and do row number 3, which is more white petals. All right, so welcome back. Now row 3 is going to be another row of white, which, you know, as I'm looking at it, I love the gold so much. I think you could probably do the 3 top rows all gold, and that would look really pretty, but I'm going to stay committed to my plan as I wrote it originally, and we're going to do this 3rd row with all white. And I already placed one of the petals, and so you can see it here. You're going to alternate it in between the gold petals that were placed prior to it, and you're going to place your zip tie just maybe 3 plastic squares inward. The way it looks is you'll place your zip tie sort of right up against the tips of these last 2 gold petals. I'll show you that a little closer. You're just going to progressively bring them in closer to the center, but you do want to leave enough room in the center space so you can put those final 6 petals. So that's where I'm going to be placing this next row. And so again, this is going to be 10 white petals. Same as before, same petal technique. So make your triangle, gather from the base to the point of the triangle, swoop in both of those sides, so that makes a little mermaid tail, and then place it here. And so they'll get a little tighter. There's more of an overlap from one petal to the next. And as you tighten your zip ties, you'll notice that they start to flare upward a little bit. It almost looks like flames. Let me see, number 3. Mermaid tails, flames, sunburst, something like that. Pretty. I'm getting all my mesh, sorry. All my mesh is getting into a big bundle here, a bunch. And so 3 rows of 10, that'll give you 30 petals, 20 of the white, 10 of the gold so far, and then the center will be 6 of the gold. All right. So as you can see, things are getting a little tighter in the center. placements just inside of that, the tip of the gold petals. I'll do one more and then one more break until we do the final 6 gold, and then we'll do the leaves together too. All right. All right, so 4 petals in. You can see it starts to bow a little bit. It starts to really go like this, all the petals, because they're so close and tight. So I'll finish this row, we'll come back, we'll do the center gold petals, and then we'll add some leaves. Be back in a bit. All right, so for the final row, row 4, you're going to use 6 pieces of the gold mesh, and I've already gone ahead and placed the first one. And whereas the last 2 rows were really close to one another, this row you're going to make sure to move all the way in to the mesh in the center, this little remaining sort of circle here that you haven't filled in. And you want them to be fairly tight and close together so that when assembled and when your flower center is placed on top of it, you're not going to see much of those zip ties and you're not going to see a lot of space in between the mesh. So again, you're going to have 6 pieces total. You're going to have 2 that basically face each other, and then you're going to have 2 pieces of mesh on either side of these first 2 that I'm going to place. So this is number 1. I'm going to place number 2 directly across from it, leaving a little bit of space. Let's see. Trying to decide how close I want to go. I think I'll go right there. And again, same technique as before. Make your triangle, gather it from the base up to the point. Shape your little mermaid tail, pinch it in the middle, and then place it here. My zip tie there. And so 2 in the center, and then we'll have 2 on either side. And so for this one, I'll go this direction first. I'll place the zip tie going this way, sort of at an angle. This one will go this way, the 3rd one, the 4th one will go that way, almost in a V. See if I can squeeze it in there. It's going to get a little tight. There we go. And I really tighten the zip ties quite a bit. So number 1, nothing falls out of place, but number 2, it sort of flares everything outward, which looks pretty. And it's okay, you're gonna place these so tightly that the tips of some of these petals are going to overlap a little bit. And I think that's okay. The closer, the better. And again, when you tighten the zip ties, everything sort of flares upward. And it creates, you know, a full wreath. It's not flat. I hate a flat wreath. You want it to have a little dimension. All right, so I'm gonna tighten that. Tuck this guy under the petal next to it. Just be careful not to overhandle this mesh. The poly burlap tends to be pretty tough. It doesn't fray as much, but these poly deco meshes, I don't know, I always have problems with fraying mesh, so try to keep the fussing to a minimum, I would say. All right, and this is going to be petal number 5. So I'm working on the other side of the circle now from my last 2. 4 should do it. Let's see, tight squeeze. I'll fit the 6th one in and then flip this over so you can see the overall placement. And then we'll place some leaves on the back. I think you could, you know, it would be pretty without leaves too, but I just like a little bit of color in the back. I think it might ground, just kind of ground the flower a little bit, if that makes sense. It's so light and airy otherwise. Gold. All right, I'm just gonna stick this last petal under this one. Give it one more pull. All right, and there we are so far. If I flip it around and bring it close, you should be able to see the placement of those last 6 petals really close together in the center. So 3 rows of 10, working your way in, and then a center row of 6. All right, so for petals, I'm gonna flip this guy around. We're going to, I think we'll do 5 lime green petals, and they'll be very similar in design to the petals or to the shape of the petals for the actual flower. But first I like to place my zip ties just so I know where I'm going in terms of the leaves. And so I'll just do sort of a star type pattern. I like to thread my zip tie under, over, and under the actual frame here. And so I'll show that a little closer. You can see that there. And I'm going to place a bunch just around the circumference of this frame. We'll put one there. Or I should say under, over, under. Under, over, under. All right. Under, over, under. That's 4. And then we'll do number 5. I'll give you a closer look in a second. All right. 5 zip ties, all going under, over, under the different rows of the wire frame. And so we'll add the green leaves in the back and sort of tuck them underneath. We'll sort of tuck them underneath the wire frame here. And so I'm just going to use the same petal technique. Actually, let me see here. Use this guy. I'm going to use the same technique as for the petals. So you're just going to fold your triangle, gather from the middle, but instead of pinching it, you're just going to leave it like this, just like the mustache from the beginning. And you're just going to place it right up against your frame and zip tie it in. And kind of tuck the green part of the poly burlap under the frame. Just like that, okay? Don't worry about this part underneath the frame. That's gonna be hidden by your felt at the end, but I'll bring that closer just so you can see. And we're gonna do that 5 times all the way around. All right. Tuck this one under here. Make my triangle again. Gather that. Bring this closer to the center so you can all see what I'm doing. We'll do number 4. Just simple triangles. You could do any kind of leaf that you've learned online here, obviously, but this just carries through the theme. Similar leaf to petal, and you can kind of shape these and maneuver them so that they poke out a little bit between your actual white petals. All right. Give those all a little squeeze, a little trim. Our zip ties, and I'll show this a little closer so you can see placement of each of the 5 leaves. You can place as many leaves as you want or as few. I tend to do 5. So you can see that, how they kind of tuck underneath the wire frame. And then from this side, that is how she looks. And you can, like I mentioned, you can sort of pull these. Once it's hanging on your door, you can sort of maneuver them so that you can see them a little bit better. All right. All right. So now we're going to do the flower center, and I'm going to take a break because you're going to need the gold plastic ornaments I mentioned before. You'll need 6 of them. You'll also need some wire. Floral wire is fine, and a glue gun, hot glue gun, to attach the floral wire to the plastic ornaments. It's really easy to do. It makes a nice simple flower center. So I'm just going to set up my glue gun and come back and we'll finish up. All right, so we're in the home stretch. There's not much more to be done. You just want to assemble your flower center, and this could really be anything. I mean, I've sort of played around with different ideas. I make these little loopy centers, and I thought maybe that would look good. But I just like the theme of sparkle and shine. So we're going to use these plastic ornaments. You know, you can get them anywhere, Target, Dollar Tree. These are from Dollar Tree. They come in all sorts of colors. And what I like about these is you can easily attach wire to them. And all you're going to do is take six of these ornaments. I have simple floral wire, or any kind of thin, flexible but sturdy wire that you have. And I've cut the wire into 6 lengths. I don't measure it. I think this is anywhere from 6 to 10 inches. It'll all get trimmed in the end, but you want 1 piece of wire for each ornament. And what's nice about these ornaments is they have these little gold end caps, if you will, that you hang on the tree, that you hang them on the tree with. Boy, I can't speak anymore. But you can actually remove these. And so I usually like to remove them, thread my wire in, use a little bit of hot glue on top of the wire, and then replace the little end cap. And I'll show you how I do that. So first I'm going to take all of these little caps off. I have my glue gun all warmed up, ready to go. And I've already cut my 6 pieces of wire. And what you're going to do is you're going to bend each one at the end to make a hook like that. About 1 inch, I would say, in terms of 1 inch from the end of your wire. And then you're going to push this into the opening of the ornament. I usually like to, there. And you're going to push it in like that. Just give it a little pull. Make sure that that little hook flared out a little bit so it's not going to come out. Then you're going to thread the little end cap back onto your wire. All right. And then I just add a dollop of hot glue right to the opening before cinching this little cap back on. It's really easy. So I'll just give not too much. You don't want it going everywhere, but just enough to kind of fill the opening, get a little bit of glue on that end cap, and then you pop it back on. All right, and you're going to do that 6 times. So we'll do the rest of them here. Pretty simple. So you make your little hook at the end, pop it into your ornament, thread the end cap back on, add a little hot glue, there you go. Move on to the next. Let's see. Thread that guy on there. What I like about this is you can find these ornaments in virtually any color. So you could use it for any kind of wreath. And they're pretty durable. You know, they're plastic. And if you break one for some reason, you can always replace it. They're pretty cheap. Not cheap looking though. Just cost efficient cheap. Let's see. So there, just make sure that's on there pretty tight. Thread your end cap on, a little bit of glue, click that on, and then let it dry for a second. 2 more. All right, give that a second to set. Let me do my last one. All right. There you go. So you have all 6. And really, all you're going to do, the hardest part of this is just, boy, I made this one really long. The hardest part of this is just going to be gathering them and arranging them in a way that you like and threading them onto the wreath. Sometimes that takes a little bit of time for me. It's just to get them in the configuration that I like. Usually how I do this is I gather 5 of them sort of in a star pattern, and then I pop one sort of in the middle. That one's going to stick out a little higher than the rest. It's almost like a little bouquet. So I'm going to try to keep them clustered together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the outside, and this guy sitting here in the middle. And then you're just going to kind of twist your wires at the base of the bouquet, you know, trying as hard as you can not to lose the bouquet appearance, I should say. And you want to gather them fairly close to the base of the ornaments, but you also need to leave a little bit of room so that you can thread them into the center of your mesh. And this is going to be the hardest part. So you have all these flailing ends. How does all of this mess go into the wreath? Well, I usually like to twist 3 on one side, like a little one leg over here, and I twist them up like that. And then I take the other leg here, and I take one of the dominant wires and try to twist that guy up so that it's not 6 pieces of wire going all different directions. All right. And I'm going to trim some of this overage just because it's too much. Too much. And there. So we'll move that out of the way. That's the way it looks. And then it's just going to be a question of, and this is the hardest part for me on camera, is placing things. Placing things first try. But the struggle is real, right? So let's see if I can get this. You want all 3 wires to go in the same square. All right, got it on that side. Let's see if I can get it first try on this side. Nope. Let's see. Raise it up a little bit so I can see. If at first you don't succeed, try again. I think I got it that time. Let's see. We have almost all three in the same spot. It doesn't work if they're going in different squares. Let's see. Here we go. All right. So now, before you tighten it, you want to pull this in and make sure you have everybody where you want it. Like I said, this is the hardest part. Just making sure your little bouquet is exactly where you want it. So I'm going to tighten that for a second and move these around a little bit. There we go. And you're going to keep tightening and moving them and shuffling them until you get them in a configuration that's going to be like this. Takes a little trial and effort, right? But pretty. And then of course you want to trim your edges here. Let's see. Trim the edges of this wire, tuck it in. It's going to be hard. Tuck it in over here. There we go. Tuck over here. And then to finish the wreath, usually I like to add a nice little loop made out of a pipe cleaner. And the way I do this is I usually just take, this is about a 12-inch, is it 12-inch? Yep, 12-inch pipe cleaner, fold it in half into a V. Then I fold two of the legs of the V again into basically a letter W. And then you're going to stick the peak of the W under the wire frame, like that, so that there's two legs kind of scooped under your frame. Wrap one around the back, the other one around the back, like that. And then you're going to wrap these little legs here. I usually try to wrap them around the center black wire of the frame so that they're not moving anywhere, they're not sticking out. I'll show you that. This is sort of the quick version. And then to finish your wreath off, I usually pre-cut a nice coordinating felt circle. I put little holes along the edge that you can barely see, and I'll just zip tie this on the back and tuck the little ends of the zip ties in so that you don't scratch your door. So there we go. Oops, all my little glass baubles are moving already. Well, I hope you liked her. I think she's really cute. Obviously, I'm gonna do a little bit more manipulation with the flower center, but I think that that's a really pretty, really quick poinsettia. It's so sparkly. I think it would look great on your house, Christmas time or year round. So hopefully you like this video. If you do, hit subscribe and you can see more of my videos as they become available. Have a good day.